Hi, and thanks for joining me back here at Ready to Ride, and welcome to a resistance band training session, like so. You are probably very familiar with the different types of resistance band. Doesn't matter which make you use, they all follow the same scale of resistance, starting with yellow as being the easiest, working their way up through the colours to black and silver and gold. Some therapists will work you harder with some of the red and the green bands. I tend to always start with the yellow, quite simply because everybody can use a yellow one pretty much, unless you've got a really serious condition, but everyone can pretty much use a yellow. And I'm aiming to get stamina through the exercises that I'm working with people, and I think if you try and push too hard too soon with the resistance that you use, you end up not being able to do that many reps, and then you don't get the stamina benefits of the exercises that you're doing. I also want to be working at taking exercises through range, as you will see in this session, and I think again, if you are trying to push on to higher resistance too soon, you'll find that you can't take yourself through range with the exercises, and then you lose half the benefits of the exercises in the first place. When you're choosing your different type of resistance band, have a look, because some of them contain latex and some of them are latex free. It just depends on your need, so just if you do have a latex allergy, do make sure that you choose one that is latex free. Before you start this exercise program today, I want you to make sure that you've done one of the warm-up sessions beforehand, just to make sure that you are really ready to go. This session is going to be focusing purely on upper body, and it's going to be some of the more straightforward exercises that I do. As the sessions progress on, I'll introduce a few more complicated ones, perhaps more specific to jumping and that sort of thing, but today we're just going to go through basic exercises which are really focusing on improving your shoulder girdle stability in particular, so that you can have a good strong shoulder girdle and therefore good contact, nice light hands down through the reins to the horse's mouth. So that's going to be the aim of today's sessions. I'm going to start off lying down, and I'm going to do a variation of the open arm exercise. So you need to be on your side with your head to the front of your headrest, and you want to take your band so one end is in each hand, and don't worry too much about your mouse hole position. You just want to make sure that your legs are on top of each other, and as you go through this exercise that your knees stay glued together. Keep your pelvic floor onto floor 3 if you can, and start with your thumb up on your top hand, and you take the hand up and out behind, and then slowly back over in front. And it's just the same as the normal open arms. You want to be watching your hand the whole way through the movement, but making sure that your knees stay glued together. But the trick with this version is to make sure that your speed stays consistent through the whole movement. And that really is the joy of doing your TheraBand exercises. Your muscles have to learn to be graduated in how they work, and not to ping into action and ping out of action. So they work very phasically, and it's a much more subtle way of working. You can vary this one by going over your head. And the movement pattern is very similar, but you're just working the muscles in a slightly different way, but still hopefully getting that nice, gentle, phasic muscle activity. So I'm going to swap and do the other side straight away, because then we're going to move on to an exercise on your back. So exactly the same starting position, head at the front of your headrest, knees on top of each other, hands out in front, top thumb pointing upwards, and you're taking your hand up and out behind, and over down in front, keeping that speed, that rhythm the same the whole way through. Following through with your head and keeping those knees glued together. And then you can vary it again by taking your hand over your head. But still looking for that nice, smooth, steady movement with no major changes in your muscle activity as the resistance of the band changes. Then turn onto your back And we're going to do a combination of two different movements. We're going to do the toy soldier movement combined with what I call the open book movement. Your setup for this is feet and knees hip width apart, neutral pelvis position, pelvic floor onto floor 3. And I want you to really focus on what you feel through your ropes. So they're the bits that hold your ribs down towards your pelvis and stop your ribs from pinging up towards the ceiling. Once again, one end in each hand, and you're going to start with your hands up towards the ceiling, and you're going to go into your toy soldier movement first of all. So one arm over your head, one down by the side, then come back up to the top, and then open your arms out as if you were a book, up to the top, and then change to the opposite toy soldier movement, back up to the top and into your open book again. So this is a bit of a brain training exercise because you need to concentrate on which movement you did last and also which way you did your toy soldier last. But once again, you're wanting to work on that control through the movement so that you don't speed up as the resistance changes, that you don't get pinged back by your band. And concentrating obviously on your pelvic floor, neutral pelvis and your ropes. Okay, so we're now going to come up into standing, and we're going to do a few different exercises in standing. So these perhaps represent a slightly more direct transfer into some of your riding work. So we're going to start off with an exercise that in physio we tend to use for strengthening your rotator cuff, but in Pilates it's known as the dumb waiter, so you might have heard of it as that name, or you might have been given this sort of exercise to do by your physios in the past. Your setup for this is shoulder blades back and down, pelvic floor onto floor 3, and once again ropes active so they're holding your ribs down, nicely setting you up through your upper body, nice and stable. So thumbs on top, and you're simply going to turn your hands out and turn them back in. Turn them out, turn them back in. Keep those ropes active, keep your shoulder blades back and down, and try to keep your elbows tucked into your side. If you find that your elbows are creeping out, then you're going to start using the wrong muscles, not so much your rotator cuff and a little bit too much of your deltoid in this particular movement. Then you can progress this on to the Cleopatra exercise. So you take your hands to the end of your TheraBand, so you've got a little bit more slack. Still keep the shoulders back and down, pelvic floor, ropes active, and this time you go through the dumb waiter movement and then straighten the arms out. Bring the elbows back in and hands to the front. Turn out, lift, elbows in and forwards. Keep thinking about the ropes, particularly as your arms are going up into the Cleopatra movement, otherwise you'll end up tipping forwards as you dome through your ribs. Also watch with this one, this is a great one to do in front of the mirror, that your shoulders don't start to lift. That again means that your deltoid is probably kicking in a little bit too much. Okay, and we're now going to move on to a couple that are going to focus more on working one arm at a time. Have one end for this first exercise of the TheraBand underneath your foot, and then you want to stand with that foot slightly in front, and you'll see why in a second. Going to start with your hand in a sort of wheelbarrow pushing position. Once again, pelvic floor onto floor 3. This time think about headlights pointing to the front as well, and again set those ropes into action. Shoulder blades back and down, and then you're going to push that arm forward as if you're pushing your wheelbarrow forwards. Bring your arm back to its neutral position and then straighten the elbow behind, and that's where you need to have your feet in that slight forward and backwards position. So starting point forwards, starting point straighten, starting point forwards, starting point straighten. All the time thinking pelvic floor, ropes, headlights, but also shoulder blades back and down, and keeping your shoulder itself still. Sometimes having your spare hand in front can give you a little bit of feedback, so watch that you don't lean forwards through the shoulder, or one of the other cheats is to start lifting through the shoulder. So this is all about shoulder control, keeping the shoulder blade back and down, working your stabilizers, and keeping the movement really true to the shoulder. Okay, so swap over and have a go to the other side. A word of warning, if you haven't already sussed it with TheraBand exercises or resistance band exercises, is that you do have to watch that you don't ping the loose ends. When I worked for the NHS, we were advised to use goggles. We tended not to use goggles, but you can see why they might be necessary. So once again, shoulders back and down, headlights forwards, pelvic floor onto 4-3 and ropes active, and it's forwards, starting point, behind, starting point, forwards, starting point, behind. Once again, keeping that shoulder really neutral and watching that you don't start to cheat and tip forwards or start to cheat and lift with your shoulder. Okay, so we're going to swap back to the other pairing that we had initially. And we're going to do what in Pilates I tend to call the night fever exercise. If you've seen a physio and done something like this, you might know of it as something called proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, or PNF for short. We'll call it the night fever exercise because it makes much more sense, but it's a brilliant strengthening exercise to do anyway. Okay, so you're going to start with the band underneath your foot and the other hand in front of your pelvis with your thumb turned in, and it's important with this one that you make sure that you get the full movement pattern correct. So you're going to start with a thumb and you're going to turn your thumb up and out, and then you're going to pull it down and in. So it's up and out, lead with the thumb, down and in, up and out, down and in. And as you're doing that, again, it's pelvic floor, it's ropes, it's shoulder blades. All the same prompts that you've been doing before. Once again, also trying to watch that the shoulder doesn't start to creep up as you do the movement. If you find this tricky to do the whole range, go halfway. So you do it to about shoulder level. You're still getting that same turning up and out and down and in, but you're just doing a smaller version. Okay, so once again, swap to the other pairing. Okay, so hand into pelvis, thumb pointing inwards, pelvic floor, ropes, shoulder blades, up and out, down and in. Turn up and out with the thumb, down and in with the thumb. Keep that nice fluid movement as you go. And again, if you find this tricky, go halfway, so you're going to about shoulder height. And you will notice I'm not doing a huge number of reps with these exercises. I could probably do more, but if you've not done these sorts of exercises before, you may well find that only 5 or 6 is plenty for you, and you might find you start to get quite sore shoulders if you overdo it, and you may not notice at the time. It'll be something you notice the next day or later on that same day. These exercises are also really useful for showing up differences in strength and stability between left and right in ways that you might not be aware of until you actually have a go at testing your strength through its movement. So they're good test exercises, but they're then really good to use as strengthening exercises as well. So even if you don't do that many, I encourage you to incorporate these into your regular exercise programs. Excellent for control, excellent for highlighting and then improving that left-right balance. That's it for this session. Like I said, I will come on to some harder and more perhaps riding specific exercises in the future. I will also do a specific lower limb TheraBand or resistance band training exercises as well. If you want to get more regular up-to-dates of when these videos come out, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Likewise, if you want to have more of the theory side of all of this, then follow the Ready to Ride blog as well, because there's a lot more background information that I just haven't got time to include into these sessions. And I've said it before, but if you've got any particular topics that you want me to cover either in a session or in the blog, please do get in touch, and I'm more than willing to try and cover as many things that I can to make it suitable or interesting to what you guys out there need. So thanks for joining in this one, and I will see you again very soon.